My name is Melanie Weaver. I work for the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. I'm here at Summer Lake Wildlife Area in Oregon with my counterpart, Brandon Reishus from the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. We are doing a cooperative project to monitor the Tule White-fronted goose. They winter in California. They use this area as a staging area. It's much easier to catch them here, and we're going to put leg bands and radio collars on a certain proportion of them, and we'll walk you through the process.
Hi, I'm Brandon Reishus. I'm the Migratory Game Bird Coordinator with the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. We're here at the Summer Lake Wildlife Area, and this morning we just had a capture of some Tule White-fronted geese. And right now we are here working these birds up. They do like to bite, as you can see. So we're measuring the birds just to confirm that they are indeed Tule geese and not the other subspecies of white-fronted geese. And I'm here with some folks from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, as well as the U.S. Geological Survey in California, and even some volunteers. And so we've got about 50 birds here. We've got them in crates. We're going through, taking our measurements, doing our banding, and then later on we're going to be radio marking a sample of the birds. First thing I'm going to do is tip the bird over. I know it's an adult because it's got all that black barring on its chest. That's the young birds do not have that, the young of the year. As well as the adults have the nice white front where they get their name. The young birds don't have that yet. They're maybe just starting to get it. So I tip them over to determine the sex. I know I have an adult or an after hatching year bird. And it is a female. So once we know that, we go ahead and we put a leg band on.
30.
Yep, band 30. I got one. We also look at a few different things here, just collecting a bunch of data. Some of these birds have variable colored toenails, and so we just collect that information. So this bird has white toenails, and it has no eye ring. Some birds have the skin right around the eye becomes orangish, and this bird has absolutely none, so that's what we call no eye ring. So then Andrea here with the USGS is going to take some measurements. And we take 3 different measurements on these birds. The length of the culmen, which is the bill, kind of the technical name for the bill, the culmen. The height and the width.
48.8. 24.5. 25.4.
So those measurements will tell us that this bird is a Tule goose, and every indication is that it was. Most of the birds here are Tule geese right now. So once we've got that done, then we step over here to Dan and Marty, and Dan will help us get the bird weighed.
Female?
Female?
No, Marty's the female.
Okay, you said female.
Well, I was confirming with Brandon which
Okay.
bird I had. I was entranced by his narrative. This one's right at 2100.
At this time of the year, these birds have migrated back from Alaska, and Summer Lake Wildlife Area is a very important staging area before they move further south into the Central Valley and mostly the Sacramento Valley of California, but also kind of the Delta area sometimes too. When they get to California, they're mixed in with hundreds of thousands of other white-fronted geese, the Pacific white-fronted geese, their cousin, they're different subspecies, but they're not that easy to tell apart. But when they're here, when they're staging in this mid-September time period, it's almost all Tule geese. We've seen a couple Pacifics here this week, but very few. And so they're segregated, and then we figured out how to capture them. It's not easy. But we've determined where they grit at, where they go to get grit to ingest, to put in their gizzards that they then grind up their food with. And when they go to get that grit, they come up along our dikes that we've got here in the marsh, those man-made dikes where there's gravel, and they feed there or ingest that grit, and we're able to shoot rocket nets over them. If we were doing this in California, it'd be all those birds. It's just really difficult to get the tules in the same spot every day. But here we've determined it's a lot easier. So, as part of the Pacific Flyway, both Oregon and Oregon and California, we're kind of all in this together. This isn't just about California knowing how many white-fronted geese they have. It's about the Pacific Flyway and all the Pacific Flyway states and the Fish and Wildlife Service as well. And so this is how we determine the population size of these guys. For other kinds of geese, we do aerial surveys or other types of surveys. But these guys, you can't count them in the air when they're in the breeding grounds in Alaska, simply because they're in a forested habitat. So you can't see them from a plane, or you can't see enough of them from a plane. And then in California, in the winter, they're all mixed in with the hundreds of thousands of other birds, and you can't tell these white fronts apart from other white fronts from the air. And so we've determined this is kind of the best way to do it.